Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, November 10th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. The book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. If you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of the worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. Secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. And if you'll share them with us, it'll make it far easier for us to live into our intention with this work. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or comment from you on the internet show through the email, we will address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. The alternative is that you can join us live 11 to noon Central Time weekdays, most weekdays. You can go to zoom.us and then enter the meeting ID number 853-2357-4173. 853-2357-4173. And or if you call one of the many numbers that Zoom offers, you can listen in. You want to hit *6 to unmute yourself, or toggle back and forth between mute and unmute. And we greatly appreciate it when people do that, because as I just mentioned, it makes it so much easier for us to know we're being of service, and that's the intention with this work. So we have plenty of time for comments and questions. It's been a busy, full weekend, and I was thinking about reading one of, or at least a part of one of the chapters of Suzanne Roberts' book. Because one of the things that I think I've mentioned in the past, that there are so many overlaps between what Suzanne Roberts has found and studied either through polarity therapy or the other work that she's done over the years, and the basis of the work that Dr. Michael Ryce teaches and his connected breathing and the energy system of the body, and just so many similarities. One of the things that makes what Suzanne Roberts is doing so useful is that she's talking about serious abuse she had as a child and the effects of it throughout her life, and then how she's using the specifics of what she talks about in her book titled It's Deeper Than That, and how she's using it herself for her own healing process. So in one of her chapters, I believe it's chapter 12 of her book, It's Deeper Than That, she writes, the title is Stillness Versus Sedation and How to Know the Difference. And she writes, the soul has been given its own ears to hear things the mind does not understand. This is a quote from Rumi. The soul has been given its own ears to hear things the mind does not understand. Close quotes. And Suzanne writes, stillness at the center of our being is a treasure house of resources. In stillness, the positive virtues of the soul reign supreme. It's here that the true self is discovered. Underneath the mental chatter, pain and pleasure, light and darkness, in the center of stillness is freedom. Many religions, philosophers, and poets write about the power of stillness. As T.S. Eliot writes in his poem, Wait Without Hope, he writes, quote, I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope. So the darkness shall be the light and the stillness the dancing. Close quotes. Cultivating stillness requires turning the attention inward, where the eternal storehouse of truth and love resides. Now, just to back up and bring us into focus with her book is about how each of us is living a life that's animated and powerful, but the energy source is wireless, and it's a combination of the internal energy and the external energy in a flow. And she talks about the battery and the analogy of the battery. The battery has a negative pole, a positive pole, and a neutral ground. And so throughout the book, she's talking about how your soul is the positive pole, and your body, the physical body, is the negative pole, and your mind was intended to be the neutral ground. But it isn't functioning as neutral most of the time. It's been conditioned to function in judgment. And then she also talks about how something has to carry the current, and there's a fluid medium that carries the current in a battery, and there's a fluid medium that carries the current in your body, which is the cerebral spinal fluid. So inside you, there's a connection to the power that animates you and that carries wisdom and brilliance. But to get to it, you have to go inside. You can't be searching outside of yourself and find it. So she writes, stillness requires focused attention. The practice of sitting in stillness requires staying with any thoughts feelings or sensations that arise. Now, this staying with any thoughts, feelings, or sensations that arise is the opposite of what we're taught to do in our culture. If you're feeling bad, don't just sit there, do something. Don't just stand there, do something. Don't just tolerate this. Take a pill, go to a doctor, try a different exercise routine. Rather than just being, we've been trained into doing. And doing without really understanding how the system works. It wouldn't be so bad if you had full knowledge of how the system is working and you felt the discomfort and used it as the indicator that something needs to change inside of you, and you actually changed something inside of you that it was at the cause level. It's the thing that was actually causing the discomfort. That'd be wonderful. That's the way we're supposed to be able to work. The difficulty is we've been trained to believe the source is outside of us for our discomfort, and we're not taught how the system actually works. We're taught that we should look outside ourselves and we should look for pills and we should look for outside experts rather than doing the inner exploration. So Suzanne writes, over time, trust and faith grow as you learn to sit with the sensations as they arise. By staying with what arises, you're more than these thoughts, feelings, and sensations. You become aware that you are held by the well of life inside. Leaning on the resource within you gives you support and confidence to face whatever you have to go through in this life. We can't control our external circumstances, period. It's just not within our power. Why not face life with this great inner resource? The inner resource of stillness, the inner resource of feeling with that very subtle but powerful feeling of the pulse of life, of the energy flow. Shaw-Ryce is talking about feeling the energy pulses lately as he's doing his still point breathing. It's the very same thing that Suzanne Roberts is talking about in the polarity work, feeling the pulse of energy that's animating your system. So she writes, we can't control our external circumstances. Why not face life with this great inner resource? That stillness provides great benefits for your life. Still waters run deep, and underneath the surface of chaos from the external world, there is a refuge inside your own stillness. The treasure of your deepest self is found in stillness. Clarity from a turbulent mind is found in stillness. Learning to surrender is found in stillness. Humility is in stillness. Inner knowing resides in stillness. Authenticity emerges from stillness. Inner strength deepens in stillness. Rest and restoration exist at your center. She writes, when I was young, I found refuge in stillness through my heroines, grace, mercy, and love. And while my father raped me, I accessed complete quiet. I was blocking what was happening to my body. I was held in sacredness. And on another level of being, I was being held in this sacredness away from what was happening at the physical level. She writes, in my closet also, while my body was in a fetal position, I found the inner stillness and freedom. Stillness became the only way to know safety or grace inside of me. Longing guided me to seek stillness, and I found refuge in stillness. I still do. Now, she's going to use the word longing here throughout the book. And there's really no way to tell you how strong the overlap is in my mind when you read lesson 4 in the Way of Mastery, which is all about this energy of desire. And my shortcut way to talk about it is to say the energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in each moment. That's what they're referring to in the Way of Mastery when they say desire. That's almost exactly what I get from Suzanne Roberts using the word longing. Longing, she writes, is the inward pull that brings you to the gift of stillness. How do you seek stillness in yourself? She writes, sedation, sitting in stillness, can be challenging. We have to face ourselves in stillness. There's nowhere to run or hide. You with yourself. Some days it's just plain daunting. So sedation seems easier. Sedation provides a temporary distraction from any pain, hurt, or discomfort. The reflex to self-numb is automatic, protective, and avoidant. We devise many creative ways of sedating. Overeating, undereating, overindulging in alcohol and or mind-altering substances, exorbitant shopping, binge watching of TV, excessive exercise, and more. The discomfort, hurt, and pain are still there, and yet we've numbed out to them. And without providing the gift of inner resource to the hurt, an emptiness can arise. Then we jump back on the sedation train to avoid feeling the emptiness. It goes on and on and on. Sedation leads to sedation. Sedation seems like stillness. We can pretend we're still when we're actually sedating feelings, sensations, and even our own knowing. Stillness leads you to resource and aliveness. Yes, sensations and feelings arise. These sensations and feelings are temporary, though sometimes it doesn't seem that way. Intense feelings can be overwhelming, and yet they don't last forever. With an anchor in stillness, you can offer the intensity of depth of resource. In other words, you can just sit with whatever's happening, and as you do, your experience of it shifts. Now, without this anchor of this connecting your awareness to your energy of creation, without doing that, sedation leaves you under-resourced. When you have access to feeling and sensations, it gives you information so you can make better decisions about how to take care of yourself, whether that is setting boundaries or creating meaningful, life-giving work or challenging your mind. If you feel yourself, you'll be able to take better care of yourself. If you're numb, then you don't have the cues that your system is offering you that I allude to in the intro where I say, the tools, the reality management worksheet helps me turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system, the feedback system that our emotions provide us and our other twitches of energy, experience, intuition, hunches, gut feelings, whatever. They provide fabulous information for those who have learned how to interpret the message. Most of us are not very good at interpreting those messages because we've spent so many years numbing out, dumbing down, or buying into the training of our conditioning, which has us believe that I'm only feeling this because somebody or something outside of me is in the wrong. So, back to the writing from Suzanne Roberts. She writes, if you feel what's going on inside of you, you can feel yourself, feel the energies, you will be able to take better care of yourself. If you're numb, you don't get the feedback from your system that give you the clues to lead to self-care, to good self-care. She writes, and yet there are times when making a conscious choice to sedate is a good idea. So, it's not, here's the old quote from Rumi, out beyond judgments of good and bad, labels of right and wrong, good and bad, there's a field. I'll meet you out there. So, it's not a bad thing to numb yourself out. It's just a thing. And if you do it, you get certain consequences. And if you stay awake and aware, you get different consequences. So there might be times when it's quite useful to numb out. Here's an example. 8 years ago, she writes, I was in the dentist chair having a procedure that required me to keep my mouth open for a long period of time. I was lying on my back with a male dentist's hands in my mouth. And she writes, in parentheses, even as I'm writing this, I have to breathe and stay in the present moment to not have my history warn me of danger. Close parentheses. She goes on. Toward the end of the procedure, the dentist took an impression of my upper teeth. He was having difficulty removing the mold. He kept tugging down on it, trying to take it off, and the mold wouldn't budge. I could tell he was nervous. He began sweating. Concern flashed in his eyes, and then that made me nervous. This went on for a long time before he realized he would have to saw the mold off. Lying on my back with him above me, helpless, my body started to have a memory. I could feel it coming on. But I couldn't talk with the contraption in my mouth. I started to feel overwhelmed. I wanted to scream, "Let me up!" Tears ran down my face. At that moment, I decided to numb. I knew that that was the smartest thing for me to do. Having a full-blown memory in the chair right then and there did not seem like a good idea. It still took me some time to get the mold off. It took him some time to get the mold off. And when the dentist was done, I sat up, gasping for air. I blurted to the dental assistant I was having a body memory from a childhood rape. The dental assistant looked at me with compassion. Then she asked if it was okay if she held me. I consented. She sat in the dentist chair next to me and put her arms around me. And the feelings came pouring out. I sobbed. We always have a choice. Choosing consciously allows us to use our neutral mind to determine our thoughts, actions, and behavior. Neither choice is right or wrong. If you choose to consciously sedate, you interrupt doing it habitually and reflexively. You might think to yourself, in your own version of that dentist chair trauma, quote, right now I want to numb, close quotes. And if you do that, you'll be acknowledging what numbing does and what it doesn't afford you. If you choose to numb, you're doing it consciously, and this allows you to unnumb when you feel it's safe to do so. And then you have the freedom to return to stillness consciously as well. You learn through the practice of what it feels like to return to the stillness. So that's if it's not the whole 12th chapter, it's a big chunk of the 12th chapter that I thought would be a good tie-in for how she talks about the numbing piece and how she talks about this longing and the similarity to the desire, the writing about desire in the Way of Mastery in the 4th lesson. So, about halfway through our first hour here. We have plenty of time for comments, questions, answers, testimonials, or even refutations. How can we support you today? What would be of use for spending the rest of our hour? If I don't have anybody pipe up, I'll return to the reading from Guy Finley. We're probably about a little past 2/3 of the way through the book. And please remember to feel free to unmute and speak up. In Chapter 6, Guy has a section titled, "The Proof of Love is All Around You." And he writes, "All those wise and great beings who have come before us, whether from Asia, India, Europe, the Americas, or from across time, they've all shared in the same beautiful revelation." And he puts this quote in italics. Quote, "The great intelligence that created the universe and each of us is always presenting itself and wants to be known by us. Proof of its love and unity is spread out all around us for those who have the eyes to see." Close quotes. Guy Finley writes, "Even in our darkest moments, we can lift our heads from the small world of our thoughts and look upward and outward toward the larger world waiting for us to enter it. That shift in attention changes everything, opening our lives to the strength and beauty that is always offering itself to us. Here are examples of the timeless wisdom that tells us this is so. From the Gospel of Thomas, he writes, "The follower said to him, quote, 'When will the kingdom come?' Close quotes. It will, quote, 'It will not come by watching for it. It will not be said, quote, "Look, here it is," or "Look, there it is," close quotes. Rather, the Father's kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and people do not see it." That's a quote from the Gospel of Thomas, his 110th saying in that Gospel. Then he quotes Proclus as saying, "We have lost sight of the original harmony. If you could hear the sound that is produced by the sunflower as it keeps on turning its head toward the sun, the friction between the flower and the air, and if you could hear the sound produced by the galaxies, you would hear and realize that the system is based upon a basic harmony, the harmony of the spheres." Muhammad is quoted as saying, "Whomever knows himself knows God." And Shakespeare wrote, quote, "And this, our life, exempt from public haunt, finds tongues in trees, books in running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything." Shakespeare. He quotes William Blake as saying, "To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." And then he quotes Crowfoot, chief of Siksika First Nation. The quote is, "What is life? It is the flash of a firefly in the night. It is the breath of a buffalo in the wintertime. It is the little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset." Guy Finley writes, "There can be no doubt at times that the world can seem like a dark, dark place. And yet be assured it's only because you've lost sight of the bigger picture as spelled out in the consolating quotations above. All true seekers throughout time have also gone through what they call, quote, the dark night of the soul. But for their wish and their perseverance through their trials, they awakened to see what we are reassured awaits for us. There exists a changeless, loving universe that we are part of, and that love is always revealing itself so we can experience its touch. Let their discoveries help illuminate and carry us forward on our personal journey. So with practice, we can notice how moving away from our awareness of our stillness at our center leaves us more and more vulnerable to the disruption that we say we don't want to feel. The pain, the fear, the sadness, the hurt, the vulnerability to attack, all of that happens and becomes our experience as we move away from the stillness. When we go into the stillness, none of that's there. The only thing that's there is the endless strength that comes from awareness of our connection to our source. Again, we're always connected. You can't ever be disconnected. And yet you can shift your focus of attention away from that connection. You can create a dream of being separate. And as you create that dream, you get to experience it.
Tim? Dr. Tim?
Susan Bingham, did you unmute?
Yes.
Are you talking?
Yes, I'm talking.
Susan
I wanted
Bingham.
Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Hello, hello,
Hi,
hello.
Tim.
Keep talking.
I am talking.
I got you. Okay.
I can hear you. Okay.
Good, Sally. Good. Yes, it takes a village. I think it would be okay if I ask a question that rises out of the book Jeannie hasn't published yet, but she's working on. And I'm one of her beta readers. She talks about dissociation, and I'm assuming the word numbing out that Suzanne uses is the same or similar, and if not, what would be the difference?
Well, in the moment, if I'm just doing it internally, numbing out internally by just going someplace else, pretending it's not happened to me, passing out, that's the same as dissociating.
Okay.
Numbing out by going out and having drinks or
I see.
Getting involved in a relationship, so I'm too distracted to look at my own issues, that's a whole different thing.
Okay. Well, Jeannie.
So what she was describing in that little chapter that I just wrote, that is a very good description of dissociating.
Yeah. Okay. Thought so. She found a way, and maybe it was an easy way for her to just choose to come out of that when she was ready. In Jeannie's book, she talks about a tool that's been talked about on the radio show. So again, I hope I'm not out of order talking about Jeannie's book on here, but in a way it's sort of our book. She mentions learning a practice where she would breathe and notice something right in front of her, or remind herself of her present age rather than being stuck at the age where a trauma had occurred. It doesn't sound as if Suzanne needed any of those tools but I haven't read the book. So does she use ways of bringing herself out of it, or is it pretty?
Yeah, she's had therapy and she uses a polarity technique. Yes.
Okay. Hmm.
This inner stillness business, right? What she's talking about is so similar to what Michael Rice talks about and Guy Finley, although he doesn't have as much of the words for the somatic, but this polarity thing is about turning the focus inside and actually learning to sense the energy pulse of life that's there in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's all about learning to sense. It's all about sitting with what's already there. It's all about the pulsing that Michael's talking about. It's just amazing to me the more I read her stuff, how similar it is to what Michael is getting at eventually in his work and so many other of the different teachings that have resonated with me.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting. She's asked me to let her interview me for her podcast.
Oh, great.
And when she sent me the link for that, unless I'm mistaken, it's like she's booked until March, so it's not going to happen soon. But eventually we'll have that. And so I think we'll have some ongoing connections and maybe learn more. Maybe bring her, if she's willing, on to the internet show for discussion.
That would be wonderful. When does your interview with her come out?
Probably a week from Tuesday. Probably a week from tomorrow, unless they have trouble processing it.
Mm-hmm. And somebody else is processing it. So what you got originally was the raw first time through recording right off the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard what you were hearing, the twanging and the echoing.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's just that you just wonder about it. It's too bad because it's fun to hear a voice without an interruption like that. But that is probably going to be on the finished.
I don't know. If they'll hear it and clean it up. We certainly pay them enough money to do that if it's possible, technically. So we'll see. We'll see.
Mm.
As I was listening to the book over the weekend, I just kept thinking the similarity, which includes even things like Byron Katie's questioning.
Yeah.
And having the level of questioning over and over at deeper and deeper levels, learning to live in the question rather than, because that came up in the interview, the way Rilke talks about learning to live in the question. And I just keep hearing and seeing it at different ways that what she's come to is so similar to so many other things.
It's amazing too and interesting that she's a scientist, or she loved and studied physics and chemistry, right? And what else? Anything else?
Well, yeah, this whole polarity thing is about the science, about the mechanics of the energy, and her brain just fits that stuff.
It's wonderful how she was able to bring it alive in her own life and use it to heal herself from what sounds, I mean, I hadn't, on the interview, she doesn't mention the rape or anything. So to hear that that's what was happening, no wonder she took off. And it's wonderful that she took off without being gone. She took off into a state of well-being by the sound.
Yeah, she was graced with what she calls her heroines, her grace, mercy, and love, I think, are the three. And when I heard her write about that in the book, it put me in mind of a friend I know whose mother died in her childbirth. And so she was then raised by her, I forget whether it's her father's parents or her mother's parents, in the house where her father, who had lots of money, lived with other children.
Mm.
And so she was basically, because there was so much grief attached to the loss of the mother, and you know how we as humans are, we attribute those things. And so I see the baby comes back from the hospital, but not my mother. So I'm a kid and I hate the baby because the kid killed my mother or whatever.
Right.
So all of that isolation, as she's talked about it, you know, she had this experience of energetic beings lifting her up and being there with her when she was the infant in the crib, etc.
Wow.
And that, you know, as an adult, as she, you know, grew up, that her only way to understand getting through that with any kind of sanity was that she kept thinking about these loving angelic beings that would be there.
Mm.
So, you know, there's an energy. She's still there. What's, you know, if we want to just think in terms of purely materialistic experience, then all this talk about energy stuff doesn't make any sense at all.
Right.
But if we open up to what the full body of science is telling us, we understand, oh, you know, that's really the only way to go is the energetic approach. Because it goes all the way through everything, and it connects everything, and it connects us to everything.
Well, isn't that where epigenetics gets in there?
Yes, that's what Bruce Lipton discovered when he was staring at an electron microscope. He discovered that what science had been preaching as truth was wrong. What they were preaching as truth was the primacy of the DNA, meaning first cause.
Right.
DNA causes whatever you experience as a hair color or a size of your hand or, you know, whatever traits you have. And the DNA is housed in and or created in the nucleus. So they assumed that the nucleus was the brain of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts looking at cells through an electron microscope and experimenting with what happens if we take the nucleus out. Well, if it's the brain of the organism, when you take the brain out, no functioning is going to happen. It's going to die.
Mm.
They took the nucleus out, and the cell just kept functioning. So radically, this demonstrates the opposite of what they were teaching.
Mm.
Come to find out, his research led him to understand that what's happening in the nucleus is just like the gonads, the reproductive center. It's the place where when the cell receives the appropriate signals, it tells the genetics what to turn on, what to turn off, how to manufacture these proteins or these nucleotides, etc. And that's all coming to the cell from outside the cell, or outside the nucleus is the first thing he realized, because the nucleus is gone. Mm-hmm. And yet the cell still takes in nutrients, eliminates waste, and moves toward, you know, safe environment, or moves away from a negative environment, even though the nucleus is gone. The only thing it couldn't do when the nucleus is gone is replace worn out parts. because it's like the brick house or the block house that would create the blocks or bricks you'd use to build your building. That's offline. It's not. We don't have any more raw materials to build a new X, Y, or Z part of this cell. But every other function in the cell kept going. So then he started looking at, so where's the signal coming from that's carrying the information that's telling this cell what to do? And then he discovered on the membrane of the cell are these receptor sites for the individual's mind energy.
Yeah.
And they call them histogen-specific antigens. And so the histogen-specific antigens that are on my cells, or the receptor sites for them, are different from your cells, which is why if I have a kidney and you need a kidney and we're the right type, I can give you my kidney, but your body still tries to get rid of it because, we have to give you the immune suppressant drugs because of the histogen-specific antigens. Mine are different than yours, and your body knows that. So then he said, okay, so the cell is getting a signal from outside the cell that's determining which of the genetic material gets activated and which gets switched off. And then he goes into the idea that every cell has only two possible states of existence. One is health and growth, and the other is shutdown and defense. In health and growth, the cell can take in nutrition, rebuild worn-out parts, eliminate waste, go toward nutrition, go away from physical danger, etc. When it's in shutdown and defense mode, none of that happens. So it doesn't take in nutrition, it doesn't repair worn-out parts, and it doesn't eliminate waste. It just shuts down. It doesn't let extra toxins in. It tries to shut off its barrier as much as it can, so it can only stay healthy in that shutdown and defense mode for a limited time, because eventually it starts to starve or drown in its own waste, or both. So where's the determining factor for whether or not the cell goes into health and growth mode or shutdown and defense mode? And here's the kicker. He discovered that what your mind energy tells your cell is more important than what the physical environment tells your cell. So the cells in your body can be drinking healthy, clear, crystal clear, healthy distilled water that's the right pH and all the right vitamins, and breathing fresh air and all healthy nutrients and raw food. And your mind, can be in a knot with fear, and your cells go into shutdown and defense mode. Even though there's no threat to the cells from the external environment or from the food that's being taken in.
So the mind is an environment.
Yes, the mind creates the environment for the cells, and in that is where the genetics get turned on or off. This is how this is their way of understanding so many spontaneous healings and understanding it isn't miraculous if you see the process.
Placebo business and all that. So epigenetics is the connecting, that everything influences everything else, and it's all beyond just the organism, just the DNA thing itself. I'm trying to put it together.
Well, the epi part of the epigenetics means above.
Okay.
So what is it that's at a meta level to genetics? What's above the genetics? What's like the marionette, pulling the strings for the genetics? There's something else out there. This was the shocking thing in his book, where he went from this hardcore scientist that just believed whatever science said about materialism and, there is no soul or spirit or whatever. And he was forced by the data to recognize that's false. That this is driven by an energy that none of their instruments are tracking, and that it is coming from outside the cell, and that The nucleus is not the brain, etc. And so he gives different words to it at different times when you listen to him talk, but it's something other than just human consciousness that's doing this.
Shaw-Ryce, in one of the radio shows, talked about her son Ryan and how he was a twin in utero, but that the little girl, his sister, didn't make it to birth. So she had a son, and when he was very small, he was afraid of being alone or didn't want to be alone. He wanted to have someone with him, and the someone he preferred would be a girl. And then when he was in his teens, she explained that her son said, I know I have a sister. And he always wanted to have a female companion with him. And she expresses this as part of a demonstration of epigenetics. And I'm trying to understand her book and understand that connection. Does that sound, could you explain the connection?
I wouldn't put that in a category with epigenetics, no.
Okay. Well, all right. She and I will have to have a talk about that because she does use that word in relation to this.
To the situation where her son recognizes that he had a twin sister who didn't make it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would be interested to hear how she makes a connection between that and epigenetics.
Okay, I would too. All right.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I'm loving this Suzanne Roberts book. I mean, just you're reading it, but also the interview was full of these nuggets that I thought, oh, I wish I had a pencil, to write them down.
Well, the good news is
You can play it again.
you got access. You were one of the lucky ones to get early access. Yeah.
I know. Thank you. It was. You're keeping the whole thing too, right? I mean, do you try to trim them down? I mean, this didn't seem to have anything trimmable on it.
No. All that happens is they clean it up, the audio if they need to, and then they put the music, and then they, package it nicely and send it off to all the podcast people. So that's what they get their money for. All of the making it look and sound professional.
And is this going to be On Your Mind or Journey's Dream?
Yeah, this is the On Your Mind podcast hosted by Journey's Dream.
Oh, okay, good. They're the
I'm
same.
wondering.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I can be one of the lucky ones and review that also.
Sure.
Since I'm in a very intense period of integrating a lot of things, and Suzanne Roberts sounds like somebody I should look at too. If you're willing,
I'd be happy
I'd
to send it to her. Yeah, she's.
We are the lucky ones.
Yeah, the lucky ones, Suzanne.
She's just a year older than me, so.
A baby, in other words.
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying it that way to ground the life experience. It's not like we're listening to a 20-something who's had one intense life experience and now they want to. I flashed on that something with some singer like Kenny Loggins or something at the height of his career and popularity, and he fell in love with this woman, and now all of a sudden they're branching out from music and they're going to teach people how to have a loving life. And they were still in the honeymoon phase of their relationship, and I just had to laugh. Yeah, I just had to laugh.
That is funny. Little do they know.
But Suzanne Roberts is not that young, not that wet around the ears or behind the ears. So she's got plenty of life experience, and I think she's very bright. And I think this polarity therapy is just lovely. It's just got so many of the same features of what we talk about already. So it's just a slightly different way to say all the same things, so it might resonate for different people.
Right.
So when we hang up here in a moment or two, I will send that to you, Sally. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being here and listening. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And also, please try to remember that every single time my body says, my mind says, life should not go this way, it always works out better than I ever thought it could.